good. I got up at like 6:30.
Alright, say goodbye. Goodbye to the people. Wait,
Goodbye to
show us your breakfast.
Oh, it looks gross today. It's really not aesthetically pleasing. You don't need to see it, but it's avocado toast with eggs. Hey guys, you're back with Steph and Dennis, but it's just me, Steph here. This happens every time. Hey guys, you're back with Steph and Dennis, but it's just me, Steph here again this morning. Yeah, bright and early. Den's still sleeping, so sorry for my voice. It's early. This is the first time I've been talking, but I'm here to make a video for you guys today. Obviously, we typically film our videos on the weekend because we do both work 9-to-5 jobs. So we'll film on the weekend, edit at weeknights, and post that way. But honestly, we've been very busy lately, which always happens. Of course, life's always busy. Honestly, work's been pretty busy and like I've been exhausted lately. I think part of that's the changing season being here in Toronto as well. So it's about 7:45 in the morning right now. I do have a pretty busy work day and work week in general. We're in the final testing phases of one of the projects that I'm working on at work. So that's all day long calls where I'm supporting and helping out where needed with some of our different testers for the project that we're bringing in. But what I'm here to talk to you about this morning, before I get into all of that work, is money and specifically my spending this month. So if you're excited to hear me talk about that this morning, then give us some love down below and let's get started. So as you've hopefully already seen, I did do a video recently in the last 3 weeks where I broke down exactly how much I've saved this year, invested, and spent. So if you're curious about how much I've saved for the year and if I hit those goals, you can check out that video. I'll link it somewhere for you too. But in general, when it comes to spending, Dan and I are both pretty disciplined. Him more so than me for sure, and I'm pointing because he's still in bed. But Dan's definitely more disciplined than me. He's very serious about it. He could definitely spend absolutely $0 on anything non-essential to live. He's very good at it. So that's definitely rubbed off on me, which is good. I've always been probably guilty with money, I'd say. I've talked about it before, but I definitely grew up knowing that saving is important. My parents were definitely more risk averse when it came to money, so they're more savers than investors, for example. But on my end, I just always felt guilty when I spent, as opposed to understanding the purpose of why I saved, I guess. So for me, it's a lot of balancing feeling guilty if I'm gonna spend something versus actually having a fair purchase to make or making the decision for myself, right, on what's actually worth spending my money. And this month, we've actually both been documenting all of our purchases throughout the month for an upcoming video that we'll be posting probably next week, so stay tuned for that. But specifically about kind of what we've spent as a couple living in Toronto. So we're both showing everything that we're buying, whether that's groceries, eating out. We'll break down all of our monthly expenses as well that stay the same, so our rent and things like that. But it's definitely actually been a higher spending month for me. So anytime I've done that before, I've been pretty proud, and it's been a pretty typical week actually where I'm not spending anything too crazy or outside of the norm. And typically if I do have any larger purchases, it's more like a desk chair, things like that we've shown you before. So nothing to necessarily feel guilty about. But this month it definitely was a little higher for me, and I actually did buy some clothes from Aritzia, my favorite store. And I don't typically do that. Throughout the year, I actually don't know if I've bought really any clothes this year without a gift card or something like that to kind of justify the purchase. And one thing that Dan and I both have talked about before and that we definitely want to do or don't want to do on our channel is try and appear like we always stick to what we're saying, you know, like it's a perfect, we're perfect when it comes to how we handle our careers, our relationship, our money, different things like that. And that's definitely not the case. Or even if we are sticking to our goals firmly a lot of the time, that it's not necessarily easy to do so. It's not just a casual thing to do. We're perfect when it comes to our finances and everything's always in place and we're always on the same page at all times. So obviously we are trying to share good examples and our insights and where we do have some good ideas and expertise in those areas. We also definitely want to be realistic all the time too. So while there's things like our couch, right? I've used that example before. People always comment, why don't you get a new couch and spend some money? That is an area where we're being frugal in and making sure that we don't jump the gun and buy something that we don't need to buy functionally at this time. But that's not to say that because we're not spending on something like that, I'm perfect and not spending in every other month and going outside of my budget. Even if I think buying clothes is realistic, obviously I decided to make that purchase, it's still outside of my normal spending. And so there's that balance there. So going back to what I said before about how growing up and up in my early 20s even, up until then, which still kind of in, I'm 24, but in my earlier 20s and university years, it really was about actually being intentional with my spending and finding that bigger picture goal and kind of releasing some of the guilt that I felt when I did spend, because that doesn't help you at all. Feeling guilty just makes you feel bad and stressed, and then you're still gonna spend because, you know, there's no real motivation behind that guilt. So it's not about guilt, it's about accountability and having bigger picture goals for yourself. So that's what you're always going back to when you're making a decision. It's not an aimless decision based on just emotions. So in my case now, whenever I'm deciding whether or not I'm gonna purchase something, I always remind myself, and I always remember that the reason that I'm saving and investing right now is so that I can do more with my money later as that starts to grow and build up, and I can do future investments. So whenever I do ask myself, oh, is it worth it to buy these clothes, for example, right now, I'm more so asking myself, is it worth it to delay by even a little bit my bigger financial goals in order to purchase this item? And when you put it like that, it's a lot easier to make a true decision based on how much you want or need that item compared to how important those bigger goals are to you. Around a bit. Oh, my morning voice. It's in full effect. Does anyone else have trouble Wow. Does anyone else have trouble speaking in the morning when they haven't talked a lot yet? Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to mention, oh, my brain is scattered this morning, but the other thing that I wanted to mention is that I am still kind of an emotional spender, I would say. And obviously, I've kept that at bay pretty well. Like I mentioned before in those past videos, I am saving 50% of my, or more than 50% when I include investing, of my take-home pay on my salary. So I'm doing a pretty good job in that area. But it is harder for me to not want to spend or feel that pull to if I'm not doing well emotionally, I guess. So for example, if I'm really busy, I'm pretty maxed out, my mental capacity is it's pretty filled up, it's at an all-time high, but I'm feeling balanced and productive. You know that there's a difference between when you're bad stressed and you're stressed, but you have that purpose and you're balanced and you're excited about how hard you're working. When that's the case for me and I'm in that state, it's pretty easy to not want to spend any money at all except for on food and the absolute essentials because I'm distracted, and that's not what's pulling me. But on the other hand, when I am feeling maxed out in terms of my mental capacity and I'm stressed and it more so feels like I'm missing out in different areas and I'm not able to give 100% to anything, that's when it kind of switches into being in the mood to either buy things like items, I guess emotionally, to make yourself feel better, which is never a good thing. As soon as you notice you're doing that, stop it. Or also eating more. And what that comes to is typically wanting to buy more snacks or order out as like a treat, right? A reward for a stressful day. And sometimes that happens to me too. So this month, for example, it's not too bad, but it was a little bit of clothes. Definitely went more over budget on my restaurant budget than I typically do. And those weren't planned expenses that I wanted to have. And as much as I'm happy with the clothes that I did buy, because obviously you guys see me wearing a lot of the same outfits, so I'm gonna have a little bit of a switch up. Did I need to buy those right now? Probably not, right? They definitely weren't a need. They weren't planned in advance. And so anyway, basically for me, making sure that I don't continue to do that after this is more so just about being aware, talking about it, venting it out right now to you all is really helping. So thanks with that. But also just having someone that you can actually talk to no matter who it is, whether that's Den on or off camera for me. Okay, so to wrap all this up, I feel like I just rambled at you for 10 to 15 minutes now, however long I've been recording. So thank you for letting me share it all out with you. But to wrap it up, I really think that having self-awareness and accountability with yourself or your money is the key to not overspending and not emotionally spend. So for me, what I really try and do, and what I recommend for you too, is having those financial goals in mind at all times. So basically your bigger picture that you can go back to as your guiding light when it comes to money. Also having someone that you can talk to and keep yourself accountable with. And if you don't have someone like that, it's maybe writing it down or just checking in with yourself and having intentional talks with yourself and keeping yourself accountable that way. Okay guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me this morning. I am ready to get into my day, feeling refreshed, but I hope you like this more casual, chatty video. And like I mentioned, if you're excited for our next week's video, it's gonna be about what we spend in a month. So get to hear Den talk a lot more about his spending, not just from my perspective. And in the meantime, if you haven't checked out some of our previous money videos, check them out over there, and we will see you next week.